Hey guys, this is Parker from Sixgill Fishing. I'm going to do a rundown on basic greasing, and then I'll pass it over to Jared for a full breakdown later in the video. First, we're going to start out with our Wraith reel. There's a video on how to remove the side plate, but I'll quickly run through it right now. Go ahead and back off that screw right there. We're going to rotate it towards you, pull it out, and then the side plate, push up on it. I like to use my index finger. Alright, so now once the side plate is removed, go ahead and take it off, and then we have access to our spool in here. So I'm going to start out with the pinion gear. Go ahead and pop that spool out, and we can see inside the pinion gear. I'm going to point to it, it's right in there. So we can put a little drop of oil inside of that pinion gear, but you want to just, be very careful, not too much. A little bit goes a long way. And then what I like to do also is put a small drop of oil on the side of the pinion gear, and I like to give it a little rotation and give it another little drop, and that's pretty much all you need for that pinion gear. So next we're going to move to the spool on the Wraith. The Wraith is unique from our other reel series in the fact that it has ceramic bearings. One of these ceramic bearings is found right here on the spool. Guys, be very careful when adding oil to your reel, especially when it has a ceramic bearing, because if oil gets inside of that bearing, you're going to negatively affect the performance of the bearings. If it doesn't need oil, don't oil it. So typically with the Wraith, I might just add a little bit of oil on the spool shaft right here, but that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and just put it back in, and I can already tell that's a little bit smoother. The other ceramic bearing is going to be right here on the side plate. You can see it's marked with an orange cylinder there. I would not put oil on this bearing. It is ceramic, it's unique to just standard ball bearings. Once oil gets inside of there, like I said before, it's going to negatively affect your performance, and it's never going to go back to the same way. Go ahead and pop your side plate back on. Pull that screw out and push down and screw it back in. Next up is our worm gear. You can see here this one is already pretty well lubricated. Looks like some factory grease. That's okay. You can use your name brand grease if you want to, but typically what I like to do is once that grease is run out is I'll just do a quick oil on mine, and all you need to do is just add a bit there to the worm gear and then do a quick a few rotations, and that actually will help cycle the oil through that worm gear. This reel, I can already tell, is a bit smoother. On your oil applications, a little bit goes a long way. If you put too much, you're going to be flinging oil everywhere, which is kind of obnoxious. But yeah, that's how to just do basic maintenance on your Wraith right there. So I'm going to set it to the side. We're going to run through another series, our Crius series. Unlike the Wraith, all the bearings in this reel are shielded stainless steel bearings, and this process will apply to all other reels, the Cyclone, Typhoon, Hyperion, and Crius. So side plate removal on our Crius series and Hyperion series, all you need to do is pull back this tab here, push down, and you have the side plate removed. So first we're going to go to that pinion gear again, guys. I'm going to take my oil here. I'm going to do a little dab inside, just a very small amount, and a little bit on the outsides. I'm going to cycle that through. Now I'm going to take my spool, and I'm going to just do a little bit of oil on the shaft, and a little bit oil down here by the bearing. I'm going to go ahead and pop that spool back in. I like to do a little bit of oil here, and on the side plate I will actually just do a very small amount of oil inside right there. Now typically you can look in and see if it's dry. You can also feel if it's dry. So we're going to put the side plate back on. I mean, that just feels buttery smooth. So we're going to move over to the worm gear. It already has a bit of grease on it, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you guys what I do. I'm going to add a little bit on the worm gear, and then I'm going to cycle through a few rotations. That should go ahead and lubricate that. So this reel already feels smoother than before, and now it's ready for the season. So I'm going to bring back the Wraith over here, and Jared's going to go ahead and disassemble the whole entire reel for you. If you're fishing really hard, if you're fishing tournaments, I would probably do this full breakdown every 4 months. If you're a casual fisherman, I would say twice, once a year. But again, if you're fishing hard, you want to do it about every 3-4 months. And people have their own opinions. So I'm going to leave the reel here. Jared's going to take over and do a full breakdown and greasing and lubrication for the Wraith, and that is also going to apply to our other reels as well. There may be subtle differences in the components, but it's all going to be the same thing internally. All right,
now that Parker showed you how to do some basic maintenance, we're going to go ahead and look at in-depth. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is remove the spool. Now that that's out, we're going to go ahead and we're going to come over here to the handle side. We're going to remove first this screw, then the retention clip for the handle nut. A P1 screwdriver is going to be the best for this. Alright, now that you have that off, you're going to want a 10mm wrench. And you're just going to loosen that up until it's finger loose. Now that you have the handle off, you're going to want to take the handle support and put that right over there as well. Now you're going to loosen off the drag star. Now that you have the drag star, occasionally there will be a small washer that may stick to the underside right here, right around the rim of that inside hole. If not, it's going to be right here in this stack. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take that whole stack off at once and make sure you keep track of the order that it's in. We will go over that later when we put it back together. Alright, now that that's off, you should be looking at a big ball bearing and just the shaft hanging out. Once you've gotten there, there's going to be 4 screws that you want to take off. There's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. This will also be a P1, so you should only need 2 tools for this job. So one thing I will note is when you do take off these 4 body screws, you are going to notice that one is going to be slightly longer than the others, and I'll go ahead and lay them out so you can see that. The long one is going to be the one that's going to go on the back side of the reel. It's the one that's taken out of this hole right here. See them all laying out. Notice that that one is longer. So now that those are off, you're going to remove the side plate. And to do so, you're just going to lift it straight up. You may have to give it a little bit of wiggle. If the unidirectional bearing, which is this right here, if that does stay on the spool shaft whenever you take it off, this is the collar for it right here. If that does stay on that collar, you want to make sure that you pay attention to which way it is sitting. If you put it in there upside down, you will be spooling backwards. Now that all that's off and we're looking at the internals, the first thing that you're going to want to do, we'll take that sleeve off first. Then you're going to want to grab the main gear, washer and all, and just go ahead and set that off to the side. Now you're going to see a drag disc as well as the pawl washer. Go ahead and take those off as well and set them over to the side. Alright, so now as you can see here, this is a new reel, so there's plenty of grease and oil in there. But just for the sake of the video, we're going to wipe a little bit of it off just to get it out of there. Feel free to remove these springs right here next to the pinion gear. Once you have them off, just set those over to the side. You can also just pull out the pinion and housing as one piece. Now once you have all that off, this is what you're going to be looking at. So main areas that you want to grease are going to be right here at the screw, and as well this will be the arm for casting. There's a little hole right here, you can see where the 2 pieces connect. Go ahead and put a drop of oil in there as well. The last piece is going to be this right here. You can oil the main gear and just go ahead, once you have oil on there, just give it a few spins and it'll lube this one up for you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then just right down in that hole. Then for this, just right around the head of the screw, and you should be good. Once you put that up on the screw, go ahead and just put it into cast and snap it back a few times just to kind of work it in place. Once you have that, that's basically going to be it for that part. You'll go ahead, you'll take the pawl washer as well as the drag disc that goes on top of it and put it back in place. Now when you do put it back in place, you want to make sure that you have the teeth of the washer heading up towards where the pinion gear would be. So when you turn it, it can catch on the lever and pop it back in place. If you have it the other way, it's just going to click as it goes around and you're not going to cast. So once you have this back on, go ahead, put the washer on, and then set it off to the side for a second. So now you're going to take a look at your main gear and your drag disc stack. I'm just going to go ahead and dump them out. So with these, what you'll want to do is, you can see right here, actually there's a little bit of dust from the carbon disc on there. It's a little hard to see in the camera. So you're just going to pull that out, wipe it off, and the same with all the other metal discs here. If it's been a while since you've done that, there's probably going to be a lot of grime on them. So you want to make sure you clean them off. So what I like to do, just to keep my drag nice and smooth, is you're going to put your first carbon disc back in. Once you've done that, go ahead and just put just a few drops of oil on the disc itself. Not a whole lot, just a few to kind of get a little on there. And that'll also lube up the metal disc once you get it back in there. So then once you've done that, you'll go ahead, you'll put just a little bit on the top, probably 3 or 4 drops should be fine, and then your next carbon disc. One last time. And don't put that on just yet because it's just going to fall off on you. It's, as you can see right here, that is the full stack minus the top plate. If you took off the pinion gear as well as the springs, you want to put that on before you put the main gear back on. So we're going to go ahead and slide that down in place. The springs just slide down onto the 2 poles and they stay right in place. So once you have that, go ahead, just drop the main gear in. As you can see, there is a keyed portion. There's going to be 2 flat sides that stick out, and you just want to line that up with the flat sides of the shaft. Now you have that together, and it's going to be time to grease the rest of the gearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit on my fingertip, just a little bit, and I'm going to run it across the gear. Just spin the gear and you'll notice that it is going to get the pinion. You will not have to grease that one separately. It'll all be good to go. That was a little much. I would suggest maybe a little bit less than that. You don't want it to clog up around here too much because it's just going to catch debris and keep it in there. But once you have that together, once you have it nice and greased, go ahead and put the final top plate on. And then the sleeve for the unidirectional bearing. So everything's back together at this point. You will just want to double check one last time that when you do go into cast and you turn, that you go back into retrieve. So now that we've established we're good there, we're going to go ahead and put the side cover back on. Like I was saying earlier, there is a unidirectional bearing here, so if it did fall out, you definitely want to pay attention to what direction it's in. If it's on the wrong way, it will spin backwards, so that's it's very crucial that you pay attention there. It'll just slide right back on. You will notice whenever you do it, the bar for the side plate does have to come out this hole here at the bottom. It's poking through right there. There's a few places like this right here that you have to line up within the side plate itself. It just snaps in the rest of the way. Alright, so that is on. And now that you've done that, go ahead and take the 3 shorter screws and you're going to put them in this side of the body. Alright, when you have those 3 in, you're going to want to take the longer one, do the back side. Now be careful not to over tighten them. They don't need to be, you don't need to torque them down. They just need to be tight enough on there to keep it from moving. So just be real careful about that. Once you start feeling a lot of resistance, go ahead and stop. Next step would be going back over here and grabbing the stack for under the star drag. So the first thing you're going to do is, if you picked it up and took it all off in one go, everything should be in order. You'll be good to go. If not, let me go ahead and spread them out for you. Earlier in the video I did mention there could be a washer stuck on the underside of that. That is actually going to be this one right here. That was on the inside of this. Alright, so you're going to start, you're going to grab just the standard washer. You're going to put that on. And then you're going to see, you'll put the second one on. And now you have these two curved washers. Now when you put those in, you want to make sure that you have the curved side. You'll feel it in your hand. It'll bow out towards the middle. You want to make sure that bow is going down. And then the second one, the bow will go up. So as you can see, it kind of flares out on both sides just a little bit. It gives it a spring. Next, you'll take the clicker washer. That'll just go right on top of those two. And then finally, the small washer goes in here. This would be the one that occasionally gets stuck right there on the rim. Once you've done that, go ahead and put your star drag back on. Once you get to this part, sometimes it's a little easier to put your thumb on the line guide, just on the back side, just to screw it in until you can get a grip of the shaft. Next, you're going to grab the arm support, and the arms do go up, and you'll want to make sure that you put it on that way. You should see them angle slightly up on each side. And then from here, it's just going to be putting the handle on, the nut, and then the retainer clip. Once you've done that, you'll just throw the spool and side plate back on and you should be good to go. Again, this is for the Wraith model, or this exact video is for the Wraith model. This will be good across all of the reels in our series. There may be some slight differences in the way things look, but for the most part, it's going to be very similar to this. And most reels in the industry will have a very similar breakdown. So if you've done some before, you should be able to do this without a problem. Alright, and that's a full disassembly and reassembly. If you have any questions, go ahead and send us an email at info@sixgillfishing. We'll be happy to help you out. Thank you.